What the hell? What the fuck is going on? Okay, we're live? I think. What the fuck, man? I think we are currently live. I cannot say for sure. Also, do we exist? This isn't that late of theorizing time. I've done later. Okay, Oprah, you're just gonna be open in the corner. I'm gonna snipe the shit out of you. Die, mortal. We are live. Okay. It's draft time as usual for these streams. Squeaky chair, squeaky. I'm gonna move the mic. Hope that's gonna be a little loud, but hey, how are people going in chat? I don't. Yeah, it is FNAF talking time. I actually might try switching over to Inscription. For later in the stream. I don't know. So weird stuff. I booted up Streamlabs, and it just was like factory reset slightly. But when I actually loaded it up, all of my settings were still there. But then when I started live streaming, normally Streamlabs like gives you this weird ass pop-up menu. Oh, it's 3 a.m. for you? Sorry, Oofer Boofer. Wait, the stream's bitrate low? What the fuck? Why do these things happen? I'm confused. Oh, it's because Draft has this grain filter on it. That's probably it. It's kind of hard to see when you're watching a video on it. But Drafttown has like this noise filter and like film grain over it that's like actually mapped to the models. It's really cool looking actually in practice, but YouTube really doesn't like film grain. So it's gonna be weird. Next video is doing pretty well, I will say. Or not doing what. It's not performing well, it's because it doesn't exist yet, but I'm working on a new video, heavily centered around Cake Bear and all that. I kind of have this thing where if I make enough progress or I do well, if I get far enough working on a stream or thing, or not a stream, on a video, I feel like kind of doing a bit of late night theorizing or streaming. I've been trying to think about Into the Pit a lot, the game coming out. I did the reaction video went up yesterday. Is the concurrent viewers... Okay, this is something I'm a little confused about, because the streams were doing better than this. Huh. Cake Bear? Cake Bear is the FNAF 2, if you know, Give Cake to the kids. The one where... the one where Charlie dies. It's the minigame where Charlie dies in FNAF 2. I was going to pull up an image, but I realized I could just say that. So the video is heavily about him, because he's kind of a point of contention, and like this video, if the next theory is true, it actually does a lot for solving him. It adds a lot to Henry's character if it's true. It adds a lot to Shadow Freddy as well. I don't know why I'm speaking hush-hush, especially if the stream actually is only like 10 people tonight. Ew. the theory pretty much is centered around thinking about, like, Cake Bear's behavior is a little different from Foxy Go Go Go, because, I mean, obviously that Foxy is a straight-up animatronic. We don't know of any proof of a spring lock Foxy existing, and it has metal legs in that minigame. That one definitely has to be an animatronic, and that one just, in Foxy Go Go Go, you just repeat the same behavior over and over again. Even when the kids are dead, you just run out and there's dead kids. Nothing actually about Foxy himself changes in terms of how he acts. But it's funky in Cake Bear that you slow down as William's car approaches Charlie. Which is what I was thinking about. I'm like, what's going on with that? That's kind of a funky detail when you think about it. And then there's the fact that he's giving cake out at all, which is really funky. We don't really see active normal animatronics giving out cake until security breach, really. Which is a very funky thing. Like, that's a very, like, employee, here's your birthday cake job. And the animatronic's like, Chica has a cupcake, but she's not really giving out food, you know? To our knowledge. You order the food and get it like a normal person. Which makes me wonder if that's a person in a suit whose job as Fredbear is to give out cake. And that was like step one of thinking about the theory. And then the other thing is, I've always been a little disappointed in Shadow Freddy agony theories, because there's not like a real origin or like process for it. It's often just Charlie dies, somehow somehow Shadow Freddy's formed from that as a bear for some reason. And then with the MCI, it's like, yeah, you have Golden Freddy, but it's like, why specifically him? Why is he the center of the image that will become Shadow Freddy? So the video kind of deposits the idea that Cake Bear, as Fredbear, it is the emotion / agony of the person wearing the costume basically manifesting that moment as Fredbear, or as Shadow Freddy, right? So, like, the idea is, like, that's such a fucked up moment from the employee or person wearing the costume standpoint of, like, holy shit, what's going on out there? I can barely see, like, is there someone outside? I can't stop, it's fucking raining out there. I'll die if I go out there. Hello, people. Now we're starting to build up. So that got me, like, thinking about, like, the idea of Shadow Freddy being born from someone in a costume watching Charlie die. Hi, Saurian Bot. Hello, Lucas Laps, or Luke Laps. Oh, hello, Inari channel. And that was like the impetus for like the theory. Hello, Jim WB. Seems like we're getting a wave of people now. Alright, I've got to get the normal key. And the video takes it a step further by saying, like, is this Henry in the costume watching it all die? The debate on whether or not Cake Bear's Freddy or Fredbear is a long, complicated one. That's frustrating me. I, for the most part, have been on the side of it being Freddy. But I feel like the theory I'm depositing here works best if it's Fredbear. Also, hi, Supersonic Rose. I gotta do this again. So that's like the gist of the theory, is like the idea of like, while it sound like on paper it should make more sense for it to be Freddy because it's brown. at the same time, Scott's played pretty weird with shit like colors, especially with Fredbear. And Security Breach, as weird as it is, opened up the idea of Fredbear being brown two different times. There's a drawing of him in an old school poster that's very much supposed to be Fredbear according to the poster, but he's brown, he's not yellow. And then there's... What the fuck? You could make that jump. I've done it before. Hello, TJ. And that's a point in the chat that I will mention too. But yeah, so like it's frustrating, but it's not impossible for it to be Fredbear at all. One thing I do want to note that it was kind of one of those things like that was being discussed about, but then you realize it's not really, it doesn't really matter, is because a long time people were arguing it was Fredbear as proof for Charlie dying at Fredbear's, but something I realized as I'm making the videos, that didn't matter at all. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had Fredbear. Right? Like, doesn't even matter. Fredbear was at Freddy's, so it can be either, and it really doesn't change the context most. Part of the reason I think it's Fredbear is, that Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are some of the only wearable costumes we've ever seen. The only other characters we can think of are, like, the questionably appropriate costumes FNAF 3 mentioned. We don't know much about those. And so that part doesn't really matter. Like whether it's Fredbear being there does not change the story. But it is weird that it's Freddy looking and not Fredbear looking. That's kind of like the only flaw I can think of the theory. It could also be the undisclosed Freddy's. That is totally possible. That one is implied. The MCI Freddy's is what you could call it, or Freddy Zero is what I've nicknamed it in videos. But that's kind of like the gist of the next video, is like the idea of Shadow Freddy being born from Henry in the Fredbear costume watching Charlie die. And we know Springlock suits are dangerous, and you're supposed to take them like very seriously in universe. Like you're supposed to like go to a designated room, you can't take off the costumes in front of people. And if you're too hasty with them, you might bleed out and die. You can't go out in the rain, which we know it was raining during Security Puppet. Like, it being Fredbear adds like a lot of weight to the idea of that moment. And like it makes Henry, if it's Henry, it makes him not saving his daughter more viable. And then there's like the question of, does he even know it's Charlie? Nope. It's just a really cool, like, little theory that adds a lot to Henry's character, potentially, because it makes him part of the story earlier, with a more on-screen, tangible relation to everything. And we do see Henry wear Fredbear in the novel, so it's totally not out of the question, and we know he was friends with William, and we know William wore Spring Bonnie. So, like, all in all, there's just, like, a lot to... I think this jump is possible. Yeah, it is. So it would make sense for him to be wearing Fredbear. It would also explain why Spring Bonnie isn't out and about, because William's outside. He's not in the building right now. And he wears Spring Bonnie, you know? And that's assuming Give Cake minigame physically makes any sense, because, oh boy, does FNAF 2 love its weird ass locations that exist in the void with one character at a time. Typically. How about you can right click to shoot in this game? I almost always do left clicking. A certain level. They were Spring Bros, exactly. Like it all builds up a weight, and it feels like something that could have been a thing even in FNAF 2 a little bit. Now, it doesn't have to be Charlie's dad in FNAF 2. It could just be Scott was intending, like, oh, it's just an employee in the costume watching the kid die and not doing anything about it. And just no one really caught on. And then he can add in details like, it was Henry watching that night, and all that, like... Okay. Manipulation is done. I'm not really speedrunning even right now, but it's fun to sort of run. If I feel good about running, I'll start speedrun attempts. Okay, you can argue it's very small, but remember Foxy Go 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 exists in a nonsensical space. Clearly, these minigames are not representing the full scale of their locations, because 3 out of the 4 minigames exist in, like, one room. And 2 of those minigames exist in places that we know are bigger than one room. Even Fredbear's is bigger in FNAF 4 than what we see in Give Cake. Do you think the unwithered existed? Not in the way people use them for theorizing. No. If people, or in like the concept of fan 3D models and stuff. So, this is my explanation of it, because it does take a little time, because it's not intuitive sounding. When you see the unwithered, you're like, oh, these must be the original designs. These must be them. But it doesn't make sense with what FNAF 2 presented. FNAF 2, you have the dream sequences, which have the puppet in them, and we never see the puppet in FNAF 1. Which mean, and also FNAF 2 talked about how the puppet could go anywhere, or Phone Guy knows the puppet can go anywhere, which implies it was able to free roam and do whatever it wanted for a while, and they had to create the solution in the form of the music box. He even says, like, that's why we have this temporary solution. There's a music box that you can wind up at the prize counter remotely. For the other animatronics, we have an even easier solution. The Freddy mask. Yada yada. Right? So that implies, at least to me, that the puppet used to be able to go anywhere, and then the music box was made to limit it. That means either... So that means at Freddy's 0, the original location, before FNAF 1 and 2, the puppet at some point could go anywhere and needed to be limited. And that's stuff we see in the dream sequences. That lines up, and if that's the case, and if the dream sequences are at Freddy's 0 with the puppet who could go anywhere, then there you go. It shows those are the designs of the Unwithereds, which are not... They don't look like the fixed versions of the Withereds. They look like the original animatronics. Not to mention, in FNAF 2, it heavily implies, to the point where it's almost confirmed. Excess, well, not much. I just talked about the next video a little bit. Making sure my giraffe is red. and now I'm talking about the unwithered debate with a question mark. It's more like a popular assumption that makes less sense when you think about how things were presented. Anyway, as I was saying, we have the puppet in the dream sequences with what looks like, with the puppet moving around, and we only know of a puppet who can move around at Freddy's 0 as far as we know. And we never see the puppet in FNAF 1, which further makes it even weirder for the puppet to be there. Now, there is maybe a counter-argument for the argument like, oh, they're in Freddy's 1 dreaming about the puppet being there. I guess you could make a claim like that. Like the animatronics are dreaming, or someone's dreaming about the puppet being at FNAF 1. But then it's like, what's the implication there? I guess that they missed the puppet? That's kind of like, what are the other minigames about? You know? To me, it seems a lot more likely that the dreams are remembering their first nights coming to life. Like, that's what those sequences are about. Which fits with FNAF 2 covering a lot of the origin story stuff for the animatronics. Like, Give Gifts, Give Life. And then Foxy Go showing the 5 bodies, and then Cake Bear showing the death of the Charlie. Like, FNAF 2 had a lot of the origin story beats. So that sounds a lot more in line with FNAF 2 to have it be like their first night's active after their stuff. It also explains the Springlock suit or Golden Freddy being around. Not to mention, at the end of FNAF 2, like I was kind of getting into this, it's heavily implied that they reuse the old suits to make the FNAF 1 location, which shows design changes like the unwithered to FNAF 1 or the withers to FNAF 1 is possible in this world. It is not some impossible concept that their design just changes when they get a different endoskeleton. We know they have a different endoskeleton in FNAF 1, but they're supposed to be the same costumes as FNAF 2 as far as we know. So they can change designs in one way. I don't see why they couldn't change the other way, you know? Like, if they can go from the withered designs to their modern design, or to their classic designs, why can the classic designs not go to the withered designs? It only really works as an assumption if you say the unwithered are completely separate from the classic characters. And then there's the fact that there's a lot of proof to the idea that they're same suits, because FNAF 2 literally says they're going to use the original characters, and they look like that in FNAF 1, and they're the original characters. And then Phone Guy says, like, oh, the smell, you know. Right? So it's like the idea of the smell implies it's the same set of suits, unless I guess there's just another 5 kids in separate suits, and the number is just increasingly higher and higher. I mean, the company doesn't wash the suits, but the entire implication of FNAF 1 was that the suits reek because of the corpses. And then FNAF 2 continues that because it says, like, oh, and the smell. They make a huge emphasis on that. And also the fact that they're fucking haunted. Like, that's the biggest one, you know? And the game literally says they're scrapping the new characters to use the original characters, and then it's like a prequel to FNAF 1, and then they look like that in FNAF 1. And I feel like the canon reason to why they look different is because something Phone Guy says at the start of the game is like, or he says it in Night 2, I think, actually. He's like, they even tried retrofitting them, you know? But then they were just so ugly, you know, and then there was the smell. And a lot of people take that as they failed retrofitting. Like, a lot of people try to, like, take that line as they just gave up or never succeeded. But that's not really what he says. It's more about, like, hey, they tried to bring these old characters back, but then they reeked and were ugly when they made them. So they're just left in the back for spare parts. And it's like, if you think about it, the fact that they have Endo O2s implies they're running the same technology largely as the toys. We know the toys run Endo O2s. We can see this in Mangle. And we can see this a few times in some of the animatronic renders of the toys. It's not... We don't get to see them all that. Happy 4 a.m. just a broom. Okay, redesigning the shells is a problem, but let me finish I'm going to finish the toy thought. So if they're running the new technology, right? Then the only thing that... Actually, no, I'll just answer it now. It's like, the only thing that can transfer possession over is the old shells. Right? Because if they have new endoskeletons, or upgraded or retrofitted endoskeletons, why would they be possessed if they had also new shells? The only way possession gets over if they have different endoskeletons is if the costumes are what's haunted in this context. Right? There's no reason for the withereds to be possessed if they have new shells and new endos. Okay. Like I said, when they tried retrofitting them, they were too ugly and they smelled. Therefore, they did not use those characters. Okay. I'm not gonna have to pull out Clip Studio to draw this. I don't like when I sound like I'm talking down to but sometimes it's like the only... Sometimes it's just like a little frustrating. I'm trying to explain it. Okay. Let me get some images. That's fine. Okay. Visuals activate. I'm gonna try and visually explain this because this might be easier to get across. Wizard. Sure. Okay, here we go. We're gonna have Foxy as a representation. We're gonna use a steel wool one. Why not? And now, Freddy. Oh god, this is gonna be like a... We got good old regular Freddy. And now do I have a withered Freddy? This would be nice if I had a withered Freddy. Do I have a normal Foxy? So I can visually explain this consistently. Kind of weird because he's already damaged a little bit, but so they have, right, the original animatronics in 1985. Let's say this is what they look like. Or something very similar to this, maybe a little different. They try to transfer them over to a new location when that place closes down and rebrand the company in a totally kid-friendly... Or actually, they haven't even tried to do the kid-friendly direction. They just want to make the new animatronics and all that. And then they're trying to reuse the characters, and they have too bad publicity. They reek, and all that. And then they're like, what if we completely retrofit them with new technology? We do them all over from scratch. They make the unwithereds, in quotes, right? That's these guys. Then they make them with the new updated designs that are retrofitted and realize, shit, these boys ugly. And they're like, we can't, they're creepy and freaky. We can't run these guys. We can't have them now that they look ugly because we changed them. And then when the new technology is blamed for failure, which we know is how it works in, hold on, let me pull up the ending. Let me pull up FNAF 2's. Oh, God. Sometimes I just like look for something, like an image, and then it just loads a billion things because I've used it on a lot of videos. Here. Come on, I have to have newspaper? What did I... So how I'm doing this is I'm searching file names, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell I called this thing. F2? Is it no space? It's no... Is it... Okay. Can I get this image? Okay. The new animatronics will be scrapped due to possible malfunctions. However, the original characters are being kept in hopes of a possible reorganization of the company. So, new technology, mainly based on the toys, scrapped. This bastard can't have him anymore. Get him out of here. He's a problem. But these guys have said bastard in them. Can't have them. They got to go back to the original technology that didn't fuck up as much. They still smell like corpses, but hey, these are the originals everyone knows, and we can use the original budgets a little easier. That is the theory I'm operating under. No, No, I know. No, let me be clear. The company is totally lying out their ass to why they're scrapping the new characters, but they need a public reason for people to trust them again, right? If they publicly said, "Hey, there's a guy who murdered kids again here," that's just going to get the place shut down permanently. There's nothing they can do to fix that. There's nothing they can do to ease people's concerns. But if they say, "Hey, the new animatronics are dangerous, and we're using the original safer animatronics," or something like that, that's an excuse to open up again and run and keep the company running. In FNAF 4 minigames, the plushies are the same models as the... Elijah Butcher, are you implying they are not the MCI characters? Because, I mean, God, no, Steam. Because FNAF 2 fucking says they are. The new characters will be scrapped due to possible malfunctions. However, the original characters are being kept in hopes of in hopes of a reorganization of the company. These ones are the characters. And they are these ones, the old characters, being kept when the company reorganizes. And they look like this. I mean, it's a plushie. I don't get the argument. Guys, I think Scott just liked putting buttons on the characters after FNAF 1. I don't think that means every character is based on the Withereds, canonically. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, there isn't some conspiracy where Scott is trying to imply every character with buttons is based on the Withereds, when we know these guys are supposed to be the same thing in FNAF 1. I think Scott just put buttons on characters because he liked how that looked, because it made them look like classic cartoon characters. Like, these guys are physically the same creature, just with different endoskeletons, as far as we know. Bonnie was always blue! It's the fucking lighting in FNAF 1. People, like, really get on, like, the buttons and, like, coloration slightly differences. Okay. These guys. Original guys. MCI 85, right? Up to this point, this is what they look like, but Foxy would have legs, obviously. Then that place closes down, and they're trying to resurrect the brand. They end up upgrading the technology with these new endoskeletons, causing the design change, because they have different internals that the suits work around. Then when they finally do that, they're all ugly and fucking disgusting, and they smell. They don't want to have these anymore. Then they make the toys as the replacement, running the same retrofitted technology. Then they start ripping apart the old ones to repair the toys because they're being damaged. Something borrowed something new, that was FNAF 2 teaser. That's the whole explanation of it. Then FNAF 2 closes, and they need something to blame. They need something to move on from. They are scrapping the new animatronics because of design malfunctions. And they're going back to the originals because of that. This is their original design. The five-finger thing isn't even that specific, because all of the fun times have it, in fact, I don't even think, here's, if you want to get on the five-finger thing, the Withereds don't have 5 fingers. They have 4. But the fun times have 5 fingers, the Springlocks have 5 fingers, the Rockstars have 5 fingers, the Nightmares has 5 fingers. These guys don't have 5 fingers, neither do the toys. I'm baffled by what's being argued. Anyway, more giraffe action. That's my stance on it, though, is the FNAF 1 designs are what they were always supposed to look like. They just were changed during the rebranding in FNAF 2, and then when that change looks ugly, they make the toy animatronics as a total replacement. It's just a weird... Is it weird the shells change too? Yes, but also Scott has to make a new game, and he doesn't seem to like reusing old models as if he can avoid it. Especially for the main threats and antagonists. Like, there's no reason for the Phantoms to have design changes, but they just do. Foxy's, like, missing an arm. Withered Freddy has some damage that Phantom Freddy has for some... Like, doesn't... Or... Phantom Freddy has some damage that Withered Freddy doesn't have. Chica's fucking FNAF 1 design for some reason, even then has, like, messed up stuff. What point are we building towards? I'm just saying, I think the FNAF 1 designs are what their original 1985 designs looked like. That's it. A lot of people argue there is some set of unwithered designs where they look like, I don't know, just like, I guess the wither's just repaired. And I'm arguing that's not their original 1985 design. That's something for the 1987 location. But they don't use... They end up using the toys instead because the redesigns are ugly. That's like all I'm arguing. Because that's what Phone Guy fucking says. Oh yeah, I'm also kind of confused. So I'd argue buttons and stuff like that don't matter, because there's a ton of times where characters have weird details and they don't connect at all. Like, if buttons mean anything, it means fucking Springlock suits, if you want to get technical. Or if you... I'm sorry, if buttons and 5 fingers meant anything, you could argue as Springlock suits. And the Wizards don't have 5 fingers. Phone Guy says they tried retrofitting them, and then they were so ugly and they smelled, so they decided to go in a new direction. I mean, he has the same ear damage as Golden Freddy, but Golden Freddy doesn't walk. He stands once in the entire Scott run of the storyline. In FNAF 2's dream sequences. That's the only time we've ever seen Golden Freddy, like the actual haunted character, walk. So the guard having nightmares of Golden Freddy and that being Phantom Freddy is real weird. In FNAF 3, because it's like, what was the thing they saw to cause those hallucinations? And if it's Golden Freddy, why is Golden Freddy suddenly switching up? Like, okay, this doesn't work for any route of how the Phantoms work. If they're hallucinations caused by previous experiences and trauma, then that's not how Golden Freddy worked. The trauma that you would have association with Golden Freddy would be Golden Freddy sitting down and, like, warping around. But he's not talking about the toys. I don't know what you're specifically referring to. There are times where I'll see like a message in chat and I'll have no clue what the context is. Or like, because there's no matter how good your live streaming setup is, there's always going to be some noticeable delay between you reading chat and what the chat's saying. And that was one of those where I'm like, what did I say that this is being responded to? Oh yeah, I could see the argument that he's just reusing the model or the ear damage. Because isn't Golden Freddy also basically a model swap of Withered Freddy, but just without eyes? The FNAF 2 phone call... I'm still confused at what you're saying, like, the point being made. When you're saying he's not talking about the toys, I don't know what thing I said about, because I said a few things that Phone Guy says. Yeah. Freddy is Freddy. That is the answer. Do I have to make a video on the unwithered topic? I might have to, because this... I don't know why this is like a... I've just seen a lot of talk about it lately. And it's kind of confusing me. That's another point. Weird that they have buttons on their fur, isn't it? You know? Like, they don't have any clothes, so the buttons sticking to them is kind of funky. It's just a weird design thing, like, I mean, I do this in Freddy and Friends anyway, Because like that is kind of like, because the idea design scheme of Freddy and Fred's the newspaper was that these are people who are having to make a show about Freddy and Friends in a time where the toys are in the are like the new design coming up, but there's like the lore, like part of the lore of Freddy and Friends, how I designed the characters was like there's corporate hell going on behind the scenes of like what do our new characters look like, what are they going to be, and all that. And they have to design characters without really knowing what the characters will look like in the restaurants. Yeah, flesh buttons. And I do that for, like I said, I do that for Freddy and Friends, but it doesn't make sense. They just have buttons floating on their bodies, kind of. Ooh, that was a great slide. God, every time I do stuff like that, it reminds me how much movement potential there is in this game still. Like, that is one of my best, like, area 1 through 2s ever. You know, that was just so smooth and slick. But then I hit stuff like that and die. Yeah, Serpent Lord basically summarized very similar to the take I have, where it's the endoskeletons that change their designs, pretty much. And I see that mostly as a practicality thing from Scott's modeling standpoint. Like, they have a different internal model they have to be fit around, and unlike Steelwool, which kind of cheated the modeling system, it seems like Scott actually does fit his models around the endos to an extent. Because if you actually take apart some of the Steelwool models, they have, like, only the minimum required for their internals, or, like, what can be seen in their joints and stuff. For a lot of their models, which is likely a rendering thing for the sake of gameplay, to keep the game, because VR stuff has to run as smooth as possible, because it can cause nausea if it doesn't run very smooth. This is Giraffe Town, the game I'm playing. I am the world's best speedrunner Giraffe Town, but I'm reading chat and just kind of ranting. So my gameplay is very screwy. And this is also a very difficult game on top of that. Yeah, Golden Freddy and FNAF 1 and FNAF 3 Puppet are very weird characters. I like to think the puppet is just beyond reason at this point. In some capacity, like, it just never gets dirty. It's, like, still physical, I like to think. It just never gets dirty somehow. And the only reason it's dirty in the Blob and FNAF Instant Security Breach is because Charlie's no longer there. I don't know which human collection models and designs. Because I've seen several fan models and attempts at doing what the characters will look like. I'm gonna have to start thinking about what I'm gonna represent characters as for Squawksverse at some point. It's magical. It would just be very funny if Charlie's a germaphobe and she can't let her costume get dirty. Whereas, conversely, Cassidy will become dirty and messy when they feel like it. I think that's probably the best way to do that section, is just do it via strafing and let the turn radius do the work. Because your character in this game has a whack-ass turn radius effect going on. The character being named Giraffe. So, like, here, let me... It's kind of hard to explain unless I was in a wider area. But, like, when I turn, it doesn't just, like, turn often like that. And it has weird properties like that, like... The puppet shower arc walks so the mimic bath arc could run. I think I'm probably gonna have to use Silverize as my biggest basis, because it's more of the... And I'll probably, like, work in some of how movie Afton looked. A bit too. And, like, how they represented Steve Raglan. Slash... I mean, he's still William. I don't know why I was about to... Maybe I'll do, like, a combo. So this section right here, that I have fallen off on several times, is one of the parts that's the most annoying. Mike Dreamer's pretty good, yeah. It's the one I run off of. Mike Dreamer makes the most sense mainly because of the logbook. And there's a lot, especially with Midnight Motorist and Mike Runaway. You can build a lot of a case for Mike Dreamer. Though it's one of those, like, the concept itself requires some adjusting for each version of the story you're, like, working under. How do I do this part efficiently and consistently? Because there's always human error for these speedruns and stuff. It's just like the question of, like, what's the best method? Because this part kills me a lot just from, like, weird collision stuff. So the old way I did it was I just took advantage of Giraffe's weird-ass magnet feed he gets sometimes, like that. That might be the best way to do it, but the weird thing is, every time you go into that falling animation, there's, like, weird physics build-up that happens that can cause, like, that little animation I did where I just, like, flew into the air for just a few frames. That has, like, momentum it builds up for some weird invisible physics counter. Something like that. Like, it's hard to explain in isolated incidents, but it can cause weird physics anomalies with how Giraffe, like, slides and hits objects in, like, level seams. One of the best things you can do to, like, show off that whack-ass physics is if you enter that falling animation a ton of times near the house using the stairs, and then you run into the stairs at a right part, Giraffe will go flying upwards. Completely uncontrollably. Like, you have no influence on where he goes or what happens. It's like he explodes. So you want to avoid doing it because it fucks with the physics and makes it really unpredictable, but it just happens sometimes. There is a way to skip that entire, like, area I showed that I was having trouble with the squigglies. It's kind of similar to what I do here, where it's like, I kind of do it all in one shot like that. What do you think "It's Me" was supposed to mean? I think it was just like a calling card for each of the kids. Like when on Foxy's sign, it's like "It's me, Fritz" is what it means. And then when Golden Freddy appears, it's me, Cassidy. And then when it's the main hallucinations with Freddy, it's me, Freddy, or Gabriel. You know? Like, it's just each kid being like, I'm still here, don't fucking forget I exist. Like, we still remember you. It's kind of like when Ennard, using Elizabeth's voice, says, I'm still here. Is how I think of it in the context of FNAF 1, and in general, honestly. That's how I interpret It's Me overall. It's Me is one of the most, like, debatable, like, what the hell it was supposed to mean kind of things. And that part right there with the squigglies is one of the easiest areas with a lot of curves, because you're falling down there. So instead of falling to the side of the level, your momentum just carries you over. It's really cool. I think if I just start applying the area 2 skips, I might be able to do speedrun attempts again. It's me, the devil from the... It's me, the devil from the Bible! Shadow, I love you. Yellow Bear was a self-insert. What? Where we chat? When do you think Mike dreams the nightmares? It has to be after FNAF 1, minimum, you know? Because there's the phone calls in them. That's always been one of the trickier parts of FNAF 4 is, like... And it's something I've always liked about Ultimate Dream Theory and Dream Theory in general, is, like, it explains it really well, whereas... a lot of other theories don't, like, use it very well, to be completely honest. Yeah, I guess I'll just have to do that skip, because it's weird, because, like, I've always wondered if there was a better way to do that section, but I think there just might not be. I think you just have to deal with that bullshit. God, this is one of my favorite areas of the road. Because it just, like, curves in and out, and you can build up a ton of speed on it. Like, that's, like, max speed I was going at for a second. That is interesting that it's Golden Freddy's poster in the hall that the Happiest Days... I never really thought about that. That's an interesting detail. Because, yeah, in the FNAF 1 map, that is where it would be. Huh. I wonder if there's a case to make that Golden Freddy's or Happiest Days the retcon. This is a video idea, like, you might have seen it in a video poll. Because I do the polls on, like, what the next video will be very frequently. Sorry. I'm just going to prompt an ad. And sometimes I'll let the ads happen, sometimes I... Great Squawk, can I bless you? Yes, Purple Cameo. I bless you. Or something. I don't know what I'm doing. Actually, I kind of want to... I might... Here, I'll reach out the level to explain this. I don't really understand anything, but I love watching them. I'm glad you like them, R. For the MCI, yeah, I do think it's... So... let me kind of show off what I was talking about here, where, like, shit like that. That's what I was talking about, where you can just, like, fly into the air magically. God, the physics in this game are so jank. So part of what's going on here is Giraffe has set movement speed on stairs only. So when you hit the stairs, he, like, freaks the fuck out. And then when you enter that animation, for whatever fucking reason, when you build up enough momentum, he'll freak the fuck out. And I don't know why this works this way. And I don't know what sometimes triggers it, but it happens. I wonder if we'll be able to get it to happen again. Did it happen in the front half? I'm trying to remember if both stairs. Yeah. Yep, weird physics shit. Float there for a second. I, too, freak out on stairs. Okay. A is A. I would not say FNAF Into the Pit's confirmed real, because we don't know what the hell the game is. The Into the Pit could be an indie game in the universe of FNAF. It could not be canon to the game line at all. It could just be a silly anniversary game made for good scares based on one of Scott's favorite stories. That he thought had good gameplay potential. It could be game line. It could be an adaptation of that storyline made to canonize it. There's a lot of room for Into the Pit's interpretations that are very, like, I want to wait till we get more official information out about it. I think that's just the method to do it. It's just, like, dodge what you can safely and then just skip over it. Everything else. Skidding also slows down. Like, you don't get any momentum when you're skidding like that on the road, so you have to be very careful about it. Because it just, like, kills your momentum sometimes. So you do want to avoid when you can. I know it probably looks like I'm just tilting the camera and that's all I'm doing when I'm running. I'm actually making, like, micro adjustments with the keyboard constantly. You can probably hear the clicking. Or my mic's canceling it out, who knows. I have noise reduction on, that's true. I think it's Fazbear Frights at this point. One of the main reasons is, like, the page about spring locks is kind of an interesting tip-off to it. Because their main attraction is a spring lock suit, so them having a tongue-in-cheek thing about it would make sense. It also is, like, it is just straight up the FNAF 3 office in the art for it. Assuming the art means anything, which is a little debatable, but if it does, then that's like a tongue-in-cheek reference to their main attraction, Springtrap. Then there's the fact that, like, Mike is interacting with Cassidy after the events of Sister Location, which is real fucking weird, without stuff like Molten MCI Alter S, where Cassidy is kind of going around following Afton around after the spring locking. Like, without that, you really have no canon reason for Cassidy to be interacting with Mike after FNAF 1 and Sister Location, unless you were like, oh, it's Sister Location before 1. That's one of the only ways you can do it. It's like Molten MCI Ultra S and Sister Location before 1. A lot of other theories struggle with that, like, timeline placement there. Maybe I'm about ready to speedrun again. We'll do one more run through it. Opinion on the notes in the cookbook? I think they're fairly plausible. like, as actual lore, I could see Scott giving the creators, like, some, like, lore tidbits, and they just, like, sprinkle it in. It's very weird for the cookbook team to be able to put lore in, you know, without permission in some form. Uh, uh, like, then again, maybe Scott's oversight on the books just sucks. Oh yeah, the Phantom ones are good jump scares. Is Golden Duo correct according to me? Not really. Not in the way that Map had presented it, at least. Golden Duo would have to be... No, I don't think so, I think, is how I would phrase it. I think this is more... okay, at this point, I place the bite victim more in the void than anything. Like the weird void we see in FNAF World. The series anniversary, I think Into the Pit's going to be the main one. We can also assume it's going to come out the same day as FNAF 1, you know? That makes the most sense for it coming out in yearly anniversary. Which actually means we won't be getting it till the end of the year if that's the case. FNAF 1 is August 8th, 2014, right? Unless he's using the Desura launch site date, which I think is before the Steam page one a little bit. I'm heavily sold to victim to say dead, and we hear the beep. I think it's such a weird implication that he survived. Like, the idea of him surviving is just not implied. We don't see the moment he would come back, which is, you know, a very important part of a story that would involve him coming back. It's the FNAF anniversary. That's why I said August. I wouldn't say it's me being in... Because we also have Cassidy in the same puzzle. That's what makes it confusing. Also, It's Me is set in context that has no bite victim whatsoever. FNAF 2, the animatronics, when they in the dream sequences, when the screen flickers out, it says It's Me, even when there's no Golden Freddy, no puppet, and no bite victim. Like, why would he be saying It's Me to the random MCI kids in that context? It would be funny if Gregory stole a book and used it as a notebook. That's a funny idea. I wouldn't say they all... There's versions of Shadow Victim that really confuse me, where it's like the ones where it's like the groundwork of their existence is real weird to me. I'm not a fan of those because it kind of devalues every other form of possession. That we see, like, it makes, like, is Afton also running the Victim memories? What the hell's going on with the Fun Times? And Elizabeth? Like... Here's the thing. We're not really shown a lot of Fredbear doing shit before the MCI. Granted, we're missing a lot of that time frame, so that could just be, like, information bias. We don't have the moments where he would be doing something as Fredbear, theoretically. But it's real weird for us to not see it if the implication is he's just Fredbear outright. Especially when media after FNAF 4 and after 6 and all that, will continue to double down on the bite victim in association with not really much, or it's not, oh, sorry, my brain totally got scrambled. Will totally double down on Cassidy / Golden Freddy being associated with the 5th missing kid. Like, in every adaptation after FNAF 4. Which is so weird for Scott to completely walk back on. Narratively. It's like a concept he just completely ditches. And that to me is a lot weirder than, oh, he's in this void thing we saw in FNAF World. And he can't see, and also it's like, I do think the retcon is most likely associated with FNAF 4, if there is a game to have a retcon. Get over here. Okay, now I can't. Okay, that's working. The Garrett puppet is very plausible. I'm not going to pretend it has no chance. I do wonder if we're going to keep using the FNAF songs from Living Tombstone, though, if we are going mom puppet route. That's the reason I made that whole video, is I think that's a heavily ignored route the story can take. Some solid potential. Yeah, I don't think Update 2 of FNAF World is canon, to be honest. I agree with that, just a room. I think the clock ending is the main canon one, and elements of the other endings. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's at all impossible for Garrett to be the puppet. I just think there's more opportunities than that, than just that. I think there's some other interesting possibilities. Is FNAF even clear what's canon? Sometimes. The movie and novels are pretty clear they're in their own timeline. It's really the short stories that are confusing about their canon. It's pretty rare game line where we're like, is this real? Because it's pretty, like, Freddy in Space, very clearly not canon in terms of, like, Freddy Space 2 and Freddy Space 3. You know, like, those very clearly, their own, like, little silly things. And, like, Furious Rage also. Actually speedrunning now, so I have to focus a little bit more. It really is frights and tales that are a little bit more weird with continuity. God, the magnet feet. This is why I said, like, when the physics get real fucking weird. Not even Into the Pit's solid on its story. What are the lore implications behind NSFW Island and Rain Space 3? We'll never know. I do wonder about the FNAF movie referencing hoaxes so often. Scott Cawthon isn't real. Wake up, it's 2014. Scott Cawthon, FNAF? What are you talking about? Go play Skyrim. Again. For the past 8 years, even then. It'd be really funny if, like, I finally beat the run, or my time, for this game. Cawthon is golden anim, dude. I do think Tails is overall better than Frights, but I think it's a little bit of... When you think about when I think about Tails, I feel like there's a bit of a bias towards it because people want more answers for the games that are right now the most mysterious being the new games. So it's very appealing to like to look at Tails, and then everyone talks about like the lore implication game, like the stories, the ones that actually have lore. But a lot of the other stories get like really overlooked, and some of them are real not interesting, to be honest. So it's like it's kind of like those Tails I do think is better, but like it's kind of like a tricky thing overall. Why the fuck did I fly off that time? I will die on the hill of the clock ending being canon. I can make an argument. I can see an argument for everything else being non-canon or like meta. Especially when we have FNAF World referenced so strongly in UCN, unless you argue FNAF World is also, unless you argue UCN is not canon, FNAF World is canon, definitively. You do not get one without the other. The problem is too many of the games connect to the games well. FNAF 3 heavily connects to FNAF 2, FNAF 2 heavily connects to FNAF 1. FNAF 4 references Happiest Day a ton. FNAF World represents a lot of things. It covers covers Happiest Day a ton. It references the Bite Victims events very, very specifically. And then Sister Location references FNAF 4 a lot also. And then 6 references a little bit of everything, to be honest. It has FNAF 1's Hallways shown. It has Springtrap in it. It has, Baby in it. And if you have Baby, you have Sister Location. And if you have Sister Location, you have FNAF 4. If you have Springtrap, you have FNAF 3. And then Security Breach validates FNAF 6, and then Help Wanted, and the Security Breach also validates Help Wanted. And then, like I said, there's kind of like, there's proof for everything with everything. The only games you can't prove are in game line are like Fury's Rage and the clearly non-canon ones. Some part of FNAF World has to be canon. It can't be in UCN if it's all non-canon material. Like, there are some not, like, characters who were not previously canon, but were made canon by UCN. Like Nightmare On. That is what makes them canon, as being in FNAF, in UCN. Their FNAF 4 outings are just non-canon, which is a little weird. So you have Ultimate Consequences, you have all of the fucking, like, Bounce Pot, like, White Rabbit Easter eggs. Mendo, I think, is also one of the Easter eggs. Tangle is also an Easter egg in UCN. Ultimate Consequences has lore with him. Dee Dee is there, and Dee Dee's a FNAF World character. Lolbit's a FNAF World character. Like, there's so many references to FNAF World that you don't even get to be like, oh, it's not canon. It has to be to some extent. I do not agree with Joe Doughboy's theory that much. Depending on how much it changed. I was emailed an early version of Joe Doughboy's script, and I did not like it that much. Maybe it got better from the final version, depending on, like... No, you do not... Like I said, I will die on the hill of at least the clock ending being canon. Because, yeah, it breaks the fourth wall. It does do that. But that does not invalidate it as being non-canon. That's like saying, oh, when a show breaks the fourth wall, every fourth wall break isn't canon. Thoughts on Pig Patch? He's there. He's hanging out. Like, the fourth wall does not make it non-canon. Is it weird? Yes. Does that invalidate its canon? No. I think there's an argument to be made that FNAF World Update 2 is canon because it is a league above where it's like nothing physically affects anything, and it really acts more as a teaser for Sister Location. But FNAF World directly, canonically affects the events of other games. Like, normal FNAF World is the reason Happiest Day can exist for some reason. Once again, that's weird, but that's canonically what's implied. Okay, don't take that jump. Gathspar. Gathspar. There is a... There... Hold on.
Bad reputation are loosely based on actual events. The majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
No fourth wall breaks after FNAF World, huh? I know he said he's not canonically that character, but that is still a fourth wall break. It's just one with a, like, meta reason to it. There are very much fourth wall breaks. Phone number tiles also don't make any goddamn... I am a Sonic fan. Let me... Wait, hold on. I need to make sure I'm on night 3 for this to work. Actually, no, we're going to play through some FNAF 3. I just need to mute the audio so I don't get the stream taken down. We're going to play some FNAF 3. So I can just... so I can... There are no fourth wall breaks that are completely... my favorite Sonic game? That's a good question. I have a very soft spot for Sonic CD, purely because I like Metal Sonic. Wait, are there not? There are no fourth wall breaks in FNAF. Yeah, we're doing some FNAF 3. What do you think what year FNAF 3 is set? I stand by when it says the closure of Freddy Fazbear's it's 30 years after. I stand by that means after FNAF 1, which would put it in the 2020s. Well, the Frickosaurus, I'm glad you like the videos. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I do like Sonic CD a lot. It holds like a special place in my spot. I did like Sonic Frontiers a decent bit. I really like the story of Sonic Frontiers, I should say. And there's some games I know I would enjoy, I just haven't played them as much as I should have. I played a lot of demos of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I don't think I've ever owned them, so I've never gotten to beat them. Wish I could CD+. Oh yeah, Sonic CD, like, there's a reason Sonic CD is constantly in my videos. Both soundtracks, I use both, because they're both great. Like I said, Metal Sonic's really fun. He's one of my favorite boss fights in all of Sonic history. I'm trying to think of like another or Sonic game where I'm like, oh, this was really it. Sonic Mania was the big one. I'm not really Tales games. I'm in this weird gap where I'm like, I've kind of nicknamed it Demi-Tales games. Oh yeah, the Murder Sonic the Hedgehog is great though. That's one of my favorite like written Sonic games. Some of the Sonic games I think I would really enjoy are like Sonic Adventure 1 specifically, and I never really got to play it all the way through. And I assume so because I really like Spark the Electric Jester, which is heavily based on Sonic Adventure. Okay, Gathaspar, how many things are you just saying, no, that's not the same, to, when they contradict your point? Because you can do that a few times, I'd argue. Like, there's a certain amount of times you can be like, oh, that's probably just a different example where it's not quite the same, but, like, the idea, a fourth wall break is not some hard set rule concept of if something breaks the fourth wall, it cannot be in the story. It's a real shame how often you don't get to enjoy how good the camera renders are in FNAF 3, because if you're watching a playthrough of it. Yeah, Demi-Tales game, sorry. For those who survived the ad, I just noticed YouTube inserted. I feel like with Demi-Tales games, it's like the idea of it matters when it matters is kind of the idea. So like the Mimic is an example of Demi-Tales games where it's like, hey, this character is crossing over. when this character crosses over. I always like that little, like, weird-ass sound effect. It's nice and, like, weird. Oh, to people who are like, it's clearly the Wizards. And then Chica has no bib. It's like, that's not really a Canon detail now, is it? Can I get behind the mouse? Or am I always above the mouse no matter where I am? Oh! Freddy under the chair. Follow Me. I feel like Follow Me is just really any time after FNAF 1. I always like taking a look at these little Easter eggs and stuff. Tales before security. But I don't. Tales being before security breach has nothing to do with any of my statements. Oh, Foxy has no pants. That's another point. I know you might have been talking about the FNAF 4 plushes, but it's like those are plushes. It doesn't make the Withers have to change their designs. Having William clip through the wall. You could argue it's the proof they look like the buttons before, but oh, hey, you're there.
Hello.
God, he just looks so fucking cool, man.
Hello.
It's just like, you can just barely see him. You have to like look close, and you can still make out some details. And then he has alternate renders on each camera. It's like,
Hello.
FNAF 3 is, in my opinion, a lot more. And then he has an alternate render here, where he's in a different spot. It's like, it's just so much more like FNAF 2 is, or 3 is just so much more impressive to me than 4 is. In terms of like how many things you can see and like how many new renders you can always see. Oh yeah, anyway, Demi Tales. I need to finish that thought. Where is it? That's it. Yep. 1. That's good. 2. Weird that Mangle has purple eyes this time. 3. Where's that from? I do wonder, yeah, I would have preferred if a jump scare would be better. I think that is kind of the weakness of Springtrap. Is FNAF 3 one of the few FNAF games you can speedrun because of Happiest Day? I'm just playing FNAF 3 at this point. Oh, that's right, I have to activate you. I'll scratch to this step. I think both Help Wanted endings are canon, or Help Wanted 2 endings are canon. I'm very good about really messing around with everyone. But yeah, Demi Tales games is just the idea of I've nicknamed to like. That's such a good fucking render. Looks so cool. Where'd you go? Oh, you're here. The eye, it's detailed, it's cool. Make a silhouette, it's a fucking great moment. It's just like the idea of like it matters when it matters. Like when we have short stories about the Mimic, those matter as like, hey, we don't have a better explanation for this thing. We'll use what the book said for now. And if we get a new origin story in the games, though, that becomes the definitive one. And likewise, like, we don't have a better explanation for Patient 46 right now than GGY. So that's the canon explanation for now until we get something better.
Hi.
There's something even weirder and kind of gross about him when he's not looking at you. Like, it's two different kinds of, like, ugh, when you're looking at him. Because when he's looking at you, it's like, oh, God, he knows I'm here? He's watching me right now?
Hi.
Like, that's kind of, like, freaky in its own way. And then there's, like, when he's not looking at you, he's just, like, this fucking kind of ugly, gross creature. Now, I think Follow Me makes the most sense. Okay, you're there. Being after 1. It's weird for the characters to be dismantled, then restored, and then just in sister location. Off screen. But if Follow Me is supposed to be like in the context of FNAF 1 through 3, it's really weird for them to be costumes all around the building like this. If it's really weird for there to be like the scattered costumes everywhere, like here and all that. If the implication is that it's like anything else other than Follow Me, it's like, why are they in pieces? Why are they scrapped? Like, who did that and when, and why did the game not talk about that? I don't really like that bit of like lacking continuity where they're just dismantled for no reason, because then it relies on them being like the crappy cosplays, and then it's like, well, okay, then where's the real ones? What happened to them? When were they put back together?
Hello.
Yeah, the safe rooms were sealed with a fake wall. Anyone could open them. You're just not supposed to. A false wall is a false wall. If they just cemented it off, they would have said they cemented it off.
Hello.
Everyone says it was resealed, but I argue it might not have been. Like, if you're going to argue, oh, it was just, like, trying to find a way to explain this articulately without being confusing. It's weird to me to argue, like, oh, why is it, like, open, and then brush aside the animatronics being dismantled and put together off screen. William, okay, I've talked about this in a few videos.
Hello?
William is trapped because Spring Bonnie is not allowed to leave the room. The whole reason we're able to lure him around in this game at all, even, is because Spring Bonnie has limitations in his programming that force him to go where the voices of children are. And we know animatronics are not allowed to be in the safe room, and that you're supposed to wear the suits in the safe room for a reason. And given that he just collapses when Spring Bonnie has no reason programming-wise to collapse, that might just be a function of the spring lock suits for all we know. I don't even think in the original games it happens between 0 and 1. I do not agree with that assumption. I think in the original games it's just, oh, he dismantles the characters, they find the old parts and put them in FNAF 3. I don't see why it's a... Because everyone gets on the case about the spring locks being sealed, or the room being sealed. And that is weird that they don't, that they like need an architect to look for another room. But I mean, these fuckers are broken. So if your problem is we don't see it get sealed, we don't see them get put back together either. So I think you just have to deal with it being weird. It's like, I'm not saying the safe room wasn't sealed, by the way, for context. I'm saying, I'm not saying it... There's the last one. I was focusing on that. I'm saying, I don't think it's the problem people are making it out to be. That's like, oh, how are they resealed? Because that's always the way people phrase it, is like, how is it resealed? And that's why they wanted to be before FNAF 1, or like during FNAF 1, but it's like, then where do the shells go in the original story? It's weird for me to have a problem with one and then the problem does not apply to another scenario. I don't even know why I did. I don't even need to do that for this section. Oh yeah, and it also can't happen before FNAF 2. So it has to happen either between 2 and 1, minimum, or after FNAF 1. I mean, it has to be basically right before FNAF 1 or after FNAF 1. It really can't be. Like I kind of said, there's kind of weirdness with it no matter what, but I feel like the weirdness is just... Maybe you could argue it's like a plot oversight if you really want to make a big deal out of it, but I feel like it's just... and then there's fucking Tails implying it automatically seals and shit, which is one of the weird implications it had. Because Tails was like, the safe room reseals itself when you leave it, when you like enter it for too long or whatever, which is not really how it looks in FNAF 3. It looks like just the hallway.
Hi.
And yeah, it doesn't affect the story as much.
Hi.
I feel like in the overall story, it makes most sense with Sister Location. For William to die after one. Because he has to make an entire restaurant an underground bunker at some point. So either that's way earlier in the timeline than most people speculate, or it's after one. Or, not most people, a lot of people speculate. I think the order of the Help Wanted endings is the normal game ending where you just beat all minigames / the Phasitron ending. God, Shadow Freddy, go away.
Hi.
She did it on my phobia till I fear gas. That is how it feels with Tails.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
I do not think Henry was in jail. It's one of those, like, it's such a weird plot point to not mention, if true. Like, that's completely an off-screen thing.
Hi.
That's... The best evidence for it is a FNAF 1 poster that also says he was charged, not convicted, halfway through. Like...
Hello.
It is one of those theories that exists because it would explain... It doesn't even explain a lot. It explains one poster. Really.
Hello.
That's what's weird about the Henry thing, is it explains, like, it really does just focus on the convicted detail and, like, where's Henry concepts. Chad Freddy, go by.
Hi. Hi.
There you are. I actually don't mind you being here. Wow, that was good guessing. Yeah, he's here. You can just barely see him.
Hi.
Push him back a little bit. I think a lot of people really try to make like this, like, oh, someone owns every X thing. Or X and Y thing. I think Fazbear Entertainment is just its own company at a certain point. Like, Henry might still have some rights to it, or like, a license to the brand, but I have a feeling he's not the one running it at a certain point. Three 95248. How shares work? It's a fucking fictional game series. Henry has to get somehow access to it before the events of FNAF 6, up to the point where he could open a Freddy somehow. But, like, there's an active CEO and all this shit in FNAF 2, and it's like, that's really weird if it's Henry. It also completely bricks the theory that it's... I wonder, can I... Wow, okay, you can't go to another room when you activate this. I never even tried that. Yeah, 395248. And now, away we go. Oh, we gotta go down further. Yeah, I do think like Henry's probably kind of out of the picture because of Charlie's death. But at the same time, he has to get it somehow for FNAF 6. But at the same time, like I said, we have some CEO who's running shit. So if that's Henry, then obviously he's not arrested in FNAF 2. Is this the one? So I have to kind of feel my way around in this one. No, it's this one. Yeah, I don't think any one person owns Phasma Entertainment. Henry just acquires it at some point, somehow. I'm trying to remember how... I think you're just climbing upwards? I know you're trying to go up and right, but I'm trying to remember how specifically they want. There we go. Fair. I do think they'll just kind of be ambiguous, shitty business people. It is funky that there's a Bonnie here, but there's no...
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I do think when they're like, we're trying to contact the original owner, it does show... I think he actually says restaurant owners, plural. Like... doesn't he? Pretty sure he says multiple people. Yeah, I do think he has, like, Henry has to have some power in the company. I just don't think he's the one running it through a lot of the games.
Hi.
That's not good.
Hello?
think we're dead. That, or he's an idiot.
Hello? Hi.
Okay, keep climbing that one thing in the beginning.
Hello?
I'm gonna look into the owner versus owners question. I wasn't paying attention. And that's game. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Alright, that's pretty... Let's get an endpoint. Where's FNAF 2? Hold on. Transcripts. Oh, yeah, maybe it is owner, yeah. I think the spring lock failures have... Well, these are FNAF 2, or these... The FNAF 3 tapes are about Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, so the multiple simultaneous spring failures have to be for there. You know, so it has to be out of Freddy's. Before I end out the stream, because this has been going for a good bit, let's see. Yeah, I think we're approaching a good point to end it off. I want to show off some new FNAF cards, those who have been here. So some new cards is I finally have added in the nightmares. So the idea with the nightmares I went with the nightmares is if you look at the normal cards or their normal counterparts, like Bonnie is a very versatile. He can reduce the attack power of your opponents, especially when you have a ton of rabbits built up on the board. And whereas, and he's a lot of freedom. He has normal attack power. These are for the fan-made FNAF TCG, if you haven't been paying attention to the community tab. These are a thing I've been working on for a while. Just like as I'm wrapping up the stream, these are some random things to work on. Whereas Nightmare Bonnie just puts a ton of his minus counters on one card he fights, and that's it. And it maxes out. It's just 3. It's set amount. It's not Bonnie gets Bonnie gets better as the game goes on, basically. Whereas Nightmare Bonnie's just strong out the gate, but that's kind of all he does. Nightmare Chica's funky. She basically places the cupcake on one of your opponent's spaces, and then when it dies, your opponent takes damage. So the idea is like you place it on their side of the map so you can kill it yourself to deal effect damage. Nightmare Foxy runs back and forth between halls. And then he builds up attack power every time he runs back and forth between them. Maybe I'll add the fan someday. And then Freddy, every time he attacks, he builds up Freddles. And then if you build up Freddles, you get more power. And then there's cards like Nightmare, who is one of the silliest cards I've added lately. Nightmare costs 100% power. He's not a cheap boy to play. But you can reduce his cost significantly. And then, but it's like a series of sacrifices, like trashing the top 5 cards to your deck, and then you can send cards you control to the salvage to gain 10% for each. And then you may take damage to reduce the cost. But he's real beefy and strong. And then Nightmare Fredbear is kind of just like an emergency, when in trouble, break glass, use Nightmare Fredbear. Where if you have nothing on the field, you have a ton of cards in your Nightmare, or if you have a ton of Nightmare cards in your salvage, you reduce display cost. Other than that, some just like effect cards like rare chip find characters, searches the top cards of your deck. Some reworks to how Springtrap and William work. William is now much more of a reliable card to use. And Springtrap also is a little bit more interesting and a little bit more easy to use. And then there's adventure characters now who did not have adventure characters previously in the game. Overall, TCG is going along pretty well. There's also the endos which are added, which are basically just like token spam cards. They just summon a lot of themselves to take hits. And then there's going to be other endos at some point, but right now they're just kind of sponge cards. I am definitely putting effort into it, other than the art. The art's just screenshots from stuff, typically. The card I put by far the most effort into art-wise is Adventure Puppet. I had to make an entire skybox and sun and clouds and all that because there's no sky shot in FNAF World because it's top-down. So I had to do that. Yeah, Endo Army. That's the bit Endo 1 is riffing on. They just take hits. They don't actually attack in this. I might make a card called Endo Army that deals damage for each Endo you have. Or it gives like the effect of like each Endo gains 1 JP. Because right now they don't have any attack power. None of them do. Nightmare Endo will, though. When I make Nightmare Endo and Plush Endo. But that's some updates on card progress for those who keep up with cards. I think that puts... Let me pull up the doc I have on it, see how many cards I'm at total now. I think that marks, 66 cards total so far. Which is pretty good progress-wise. I am trying to think of how to use Mimic Ball. I think Mimic Ball will be target one card, because a lot of cards in this game have once per turn effects. So Freddy, for example, has once per turn. If you have a card with animatronic type in the left hull, gain 10% power after Freddy attacks. So Mimic Ball's effect would be pick one card. The next time it would activate a once per turn effect, activate it twice. Making a mod for Snap. Hold on. Let me look up Snap. That's not one. I'm not from the. Oh, this is one of the sillies. Snap? I'm not. I don't know what Snap is. I'm just finding actual card games now. This is one of my favorite cards for how much of a card on the whim it was. I would like to make it an online card game if I could find people who knew how to do that. I don't know how to do that, so I won't be able to make that. Oh, Marvel Snap. That would be a lot of work, I think, but it would be cool. So yeah, this is Defy the Laws of Physics. So if you don't know, there's a bit Scott established with Bonnie that he defies all physics. So in the iconic Celebrate render, you can see here he's floating. He's not on the ground. And then he also is the only character who genuinely teleports with this AI pathing other than Golden Freddy in FNAF 1. Chica actually picks like room to room to room. So like she can only pick one room behind her or one room in front of her. Whereas Bonnie can pick pretty much anything on the left side for his pathing. So between Bonnie floating and Bonnie teleporting, Bonnie canonically just defies the laws of physics. And so I gave him a card called Defy the Laws of Physics, and what it does, which in this game... So let me pull up the game board for context of why this is such a silly card. This is what the game board looks like. So you have spaces you can put the cards on. And Bonnie, a lot of the Bonnies are pretty restricted to the left side and vent. But Defy the Laws of Physics allow you to take a Bonnie on either side of the field and move it to another side on said side. So if you control Bonnie in the left hall, you can make it a right hall card by using Defy the Laws of Physics to move it over. Or in the vent or the office. And if your opponent has a Bonnie in their left hall, you could just move that over to their right hall if you have a Freddy here or something blocking it or something like that. It's a meme card. It's silly, but what's even funnier about it is there's a beta version of the card before I rebalanced the effect. That made it so you could... I just said any other space. For how I worded it, just Bonnie can move to any other space. So when I was playtesting with my friend Tito, he had a Bonnie in his hall, and then he used Defy the Law, or I had a Bonnie in my hall, and he used Defy the Laws of Physics to move it over to his. So he just had Bonnie from then on out. Because I'm like, I guess it's on your side. I guess it would be yours. So I had to nerf that for a free card. This card costs 0%. It's free. So I had to that had to be nerfed. Mr. Hippo should be a stall card. That absolutely has to be how Hippo plays. I wonder what the other ones would do. My guess is Happy Frog will just be a really cheap card. with rush, or not rush. I don't have a keyword for it actually in this game. For the ability to attack, because there's summoning sickness. So when you play a card, it has to wait till next turn to be able to attack. Um, but I think giving Happy Frog the ability to attack the turn she's played would be like a cool thing if she's like low cost, so she's a quick card to play. Hippo would be a stall card. It'd be funny if Ned Bear was like a lower cost bootleg version of Freddy. Like instead of a 60%, he's a 30%. And he has like the gain power effect, but it's worse somehow. And then Pork Patch be something goofy. And I have no clue what Orville would be. Anyway, that's another look at the FNAF TCG. Oh yeah, Orville being able to move opponents' cards would be funny. Actually, Orville gaining power when a card is in front of him would be a very funny thing, and then giving him the power to move opponents' cards. I'm trying to think. One of the cards I've been the most split on for what it would do is Rockstar Freddy and Bonnie are really stuck in my head for what they do. Because I know Chica and Foxy for the Rockstars. I know Foxy is going to be the only character you have to flip a coin for his effect. Where if you flip it, its tails, you take damage. If it's heads, you get like 10% power or a draw. I know that's how he's going to work, and I know Chica is going to be just like a really solid defense card that can be played in either hall. Nightmare Freddy already has an effect. He's already here. And I like this because the Freddy archetype's all about building up power and manipulating power. I really wish FNAF 4 played more into the body horror aspect that Nightmare Freddy has. Because the Freddles, like, crawling in and out of him is so much more unique than the other ones who are just kind of sharp. Okay, I know it's like you want to obviously say, oh, Freddy with the Rockstar Freddy extorts people for money. It's one of those. What does that look like in game? Oh, Shadow Freddy also has a card. It's actually very close to what you were saying. Where is he? Where's the boy? There he is. So Shadow Freddy has the ability just to delete anything if you pay its cost. But it's like I said, what does extorting a player look like for the sake of Rockstar Freddy? Maybe Rockstar Freddy, at the start of your turn, you ask your opponent whether or not you get 10% power, and they either have to give you 10% power, or Rockstar Freddy, like, deals damage, I guess? It is kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, right now it's a mixture of Inscription, Digimon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, really classic Yu-Gi-Oh! though. Not modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! is crack-paced. It is so fast-paced. Whereas this game, much more chill-paced, in my experience. Though the Nightmares might speed it up because they do have kind of intimidating effects at times. And now every character has an adventure to work with, which I really do want to try. Problem is, Tito is the main person I get to playtest with, and he's moving right now. So I don't have as many opportunities to play the TCG with him. But he'll be finished moving soon, which will help. Can this game be downloaded? Kind of. Let me actually show how. You don't download it, though. It's browser-based. There is this website, Untap, allows you to play... Here, I'll show off. It allows you to play all of these TCGs. And one of those things you can do is custom TCG. And then you can upload custom cards to it. And I've uploaded all the cards. So if you ever want to build a deck for the game, you can type :set equals FCG1 for FNAF card game 1. And then every single card I've made will be there. And then you just double click them and it adds them to the to your deck. Deck size is 40 cards. And you are allowed up to 3 copies of each card of your choice. Actually, I'll show off an example deck I've made. That's loosely a Golden Freddy themed deck. It's mainly a Freddy deck, actually, but it does also support Golden Freddy. This is a little outdated because there's some cards I haven't put in yet. Like, there's no Nightmare Freddy in here because he's fairly new. But, like, this is a deck I made. Once again, 40 cards across 17 unique characters and cards and all that. There's a Toy Chica running in here because she's an easy card to put in the left hall, and normal Freddy benefits from having stuff in the left hall. And then once you make a deck, you can go to custom card game. One of the settings, I play Digimon on this, and then you can make a game, and then you just boot it up like that. Yeah, Molten Freddy I know is going to play into the like amalgam themed cards and stuff. Let's see what my starting hand would be. That's actually not that bad. And then you have like counters over here you can manipulate. Other people can join the games. A quick outline of the rules, I guess I'll end it on if you want to play it yourself. You draw 5 cards at the start of the game. If you don't like your hand, you could send all the cards to the deck bottom. Second deck? I didn't even know there was a second deck mechanic. It's the eggs in Digimon. That's what this is. Okay. But you can press Y to send cards to the bottom of your deck. And you can click shuffle. And then you can draw 5 new cards for your new hand. If you don't like your hand, you get to do that once. And then you get to roll a d20 right now. That's because it's what the website has. And then whoever has the higher number goes first. And then you play a card. And then you can see in the intended game board, there's a percentage meter. The game starts at 0, and when you play a card, let's say it's my opponent's turn, they play a card, it moves that many spaces over, and if it's on your side, that means it's your turn when the percentage meter moves. So let's say I played Adventure Freddy here. Adventure Freddy costs 20% power, so it would go over to my opponent's side here at 20%. Now, when it goes over the 0, it goes to your opponent's turn. If it's at 0, it's still your turn. So let's say they're at 20%. That's what I did. And then they played a big old Freddy Fazbear in their right hall. Then that costs 60%. So it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over to 40% on my side. It has crossed the 0 threshold. And now it's my turn with 40%, and I can keep playing cards until I go over the 0%. and then it pendulums back and forth for the turns. From there, you place cards in the areas they say they go in, and then you have health. For example, you can tap a card, turn it sideways to attack. These are a lot of rules. You cannot get the game board on the website. You just have to know what it looks like right now. That is one problem I cannot work around right now. Is I do not believe there's any way to insert a game board for a fan project like this. But for health, it's whatever a card's JP is, if it hits your opponent. So Freddy deals 2 JP, then I would take 2 points of damage, it would go down to 2. And damage is like percentage, it's a pendulum. So if I dealt 4 damage, let's say, with whatever card, then it would go over 2 spaces, and my opponent would be at 2. And if they dealt 5, it would go over to 3 on my side. And if either player gets all the way to 6, game over. There's like blocking rules and stuff if you're in the same hall and they attack. If a card is active, it can block an attack. If a card is deactivated, it's your opponent's choice whether or not they fight or not. There's a reason that I'm going to make a dedicated video for this, and I've only loosely explained how it's played up to this point. Because it's complicated. But anyway, it's a good point for ending the stream. But